Good morning, Upper School. Welcome to the senior speeches for the 2022. We ask that you please silence your cell phones before the event to honor today's speakers. Our first speaker today, Ellie will be introduced by her father, R.C. Schindler.
All right, good morning. Some of you might not know this, but Ellie was born on Christmas Day, or December 25th, 2003. Swaddled in a big red stocking, the silent night was no more. Ellie came into this world talking, and we haven't had silence since. We often joke if we had Ellie first, She would have been an only child. Polar opposite of her brother Jacob, Ellie is loud and sassy. She commands and demands attention when she walks into the room. She's a fierce competitor, hates to lose, and has no concept of playing for fun. Skating was a perfect sport for her. She could be the center of attention, show off with her skills, and gloat from the top of the podium. Not sure how the diva was to coach. Then she switched to soccer and lacrosse. I'm guessing our current coaches wish she had stuck with skating. Kidding aside, Ellie truly has been a gift to our family. She's so easy to be around and her smile lights up the room. I'm going to miss her when she's gone, but no, she's more than ready to conquer the world. Take no prisoners, Ellie. She might have gotten a little of that competitive nature from me. Here's my favorite daughter, Ellie Scheinler.
Come on, Ellie, do you quit at everything you do, just like you quit skating? These are the words that hit me as I boycotted push-ups for doing the drill wrong. In my defense, I was being targeted in this drill by Mr. Travis. I was merely a naive, innocent, and confused sophomore in her second year of soccer, intimidated by the older seniors. The point of the drill was that after I touched the ball, I was supposed to move to a new place on the field. So I passed the ball to the best of my ability, and what did I do? I moved. Apparently, my swift movements on the field weren't good enough in the eyes of Mr. Travis. I realized that perhaps, just maybe, I was actually doing the drill wrong, but I'm never wrong, so that could not have been an option. About my sixth time through the drill, Mr. Travis yelled, "Ellie, give me 10." And everyone started laughing because, as I said, I was the only one having to do push-ups. I guess everyone else on the team was doing the drills perfectly. I gave Mr. Travis maybe 2 or 3 push-ups and fell to the ground. I exclaimed, "I quit," and stormed away. This is when Mr. Travis and a few of my teammates reminded me that I quit at everything I do, apparently. I don't want to admit that I'm a quitter because there seems to be a negative connotation around the word quitter. Even throughout my childhood, when things didn't go my way in board games, I would simply yell, "I quit," and walk away from the scene, usually crying. My parents often tell the story of when we used to play Candyland, and when my player didn't make it up the candy cane ladder, I would grab the board and push everyone's pieces off so no one else could be the winner. However, I'm here to argue that being a quitter is a good thing. As many of you know, I used to be a competitive figure skater. After 10 years of skating, I decided to quit. This decision of quitting brought me many amazing opportunities. Finally, I could participate in school sports. I found a new passion for sports because of my decision to quit figure skating. I've never been able to travel for club teams and spend my fall and spring season doing school sports such as soccer and lacrosse. I spent my summers trying to catch up in skills in lacrosse, and I dabbled in my skills in soccer, but didn't get far. I found the motivation I had for skating in these new activities. Quitting allowed me to make many new amazing memories. During soccer, my favorite memories included having a whole team sleepover, slushies after practice, team dinners, Friday scrimmages with past soccer players, and Mr. Travis's and Mr. Gahan's criticism. There's nothing better than doing a drill wrong and Mr. Gahan saying, let's not do what Ellie did. Or, and that's what we don't want to do after I went through the drill. One of my most memorable lines from Mr. Gahan and Mr. Travis was when we were scrimmaging this past season. If I'm going to be honest, I really was not playing to the best of my ability, so I shouldn't have been surprised when I was pulled off after just a few minutes. As I was walking towards the bench, in silence, Mr. Gahan said, "Good, you weren't doing anything for the team anyway." And Mr. Travis added, "That's why you will be benched now." I did fire back, but I won't say what I said, since it will only explain why I won Coach's Pest this year and last year. Now onto lacrosse. Freshman year, I had no clue how to cradle or even throw a ball, but sophomore year, I was ready to play. I had been practicing over the summer and doing club lacrosse. Due to COVID, we weren't able to play any games, and my season was cut short. The only thing I'd accomplished this year was breaking 4 nails in the month and a half of the season. When I tell you this is the worst pain I have ever endured in a sport, I mean it. I have fallen many times on cold, hard ice, hit my head, my knees, twisted my arms. I've been hit in the head with a lacrosse ball, hit in the face with Molly O'Grady's soccer shot. but a nail breaking tops all. I see why people use it as an interrogation method. One day, sophomore year, Lucy and I did a one-on-one drill. Normally, Lucy is defense and I'm offense, given those are our normal positions. We switched positions in this drill. This is where it all went wrong. And I set up for defense, unsure of what moves Lucy would pull. Suddenly, Lucy shot. Her stick collided with mine, and what was sandwiched in the middle of the two sticks? My hand, which included my nail. I screamed and fell to my knees because, like I said, this is the worst pain. I ran to the trainer without saying anything to my teammates and coaches, who were left worried that something worse than breaking a nail had happened. I sat on my knees with my head hung low as the trainer fixed my fingers. I walked back to the team as they were relieved, as they thought I was seriously injured after the performance I gave them. I set a new record this last season as I broke 8 nails. This included breaking 3 in one practice. I have now learned my lesson and can sadly say I won't have long nails for my last lacrosse season. And my advice to younger players, even though it's pretty obvious, don't have long nails in any sport. It won't end well. Another lacrosse memory was when I was headed down to Manual Stadium. I was specifically told by my coach to leave earlier than expected so I wouldn't be late. I apparently was late to multiple games and practices. I wasn't aware that I was late to these games and practices until my parents told me that's what my coach said in a secret meeting they had. To try to fix this for the game, I left my house an hour early and successfully made it to the field, but then I couldn't find parking. The clock was past time I needed to be warming up. I called my coach and she wasn't there yet, so I was in the clear. I then was confused as why everyone was turning right to find parking when there were obviously spots to the left. I turned left and was questioning why there were cars on both sides parked facing the opposite direction I was driving. Then it hit me as cars were barreling towards me at full speed honking. This was a one-way street. I panicked as the cars were swerving around me and turned onto the closest street. To my surprise, this was another one-way street. I pulled into a driveway, tears streaming down my face, as I was now late to the game I was told not to be late to, and had driven down 2 one-way streets. I finally made it to the game, and we ended up winning, so things did turn out the right way. My driving endeavors were a joke for the rest of the season, since for every game after that, my teammates and coaches would greet me with, "Glad you made it," with a smirk. Other than breaking nails and turning down one-way streets, lacrosse has also brought me a new passion for a sport that I never would have thought I found after quitting skating. Instead of saying I quit or being called a quitter, I now will answer back with one door closed and another one opened. When my door to skating closed, I was lucky to have 2 new doors open. I did not quit, I just closed the door and walked into another one. Look for the open doors in your life. Thank you.
That's rude. Our second speaker today is Rhys Ragland. Rhys will be introduced by our cross-country coach, Curtis Ottstock.
Good morning. I apologize for my voice, but it seems to have gotten stage fright. I'm here today to introduce somebody who has grown to. I'm here today to introduce somebody who I've grown to admire over the last 4 years. As a freshman, she was already an accomplished athlete, yet was still willing to listen and learn to keep improving. As a sophomore, at one meet in particular, I asked much more than I should of her, yet she still went out and gave everything she had. As a junior, I watched her break free of what she thought she was capable of to reach goals that I always knew she could. As a senior, she leads by example with some sort of humble confidence. Her character through the years and through each of these moments is what I admire most about her. I now introduce you to Rhys Ragland.
I am extremely obsessive. That might make me sound a little bit crazy, which isn't particularly incorrect, but bear with me. Throughout my life, I'd have many fixations on various different things, whether it's a food item, a best friend, or even a word. The time I spend captivated by the said object or person can range from weeks to months to years. One of the earliest memories I have of fixating on one thing is oranges, specifically cuties, but the orange slices served at lunch would be adequate as well. On days in lower and middle school, when I wasn't totally fond of what we had for lunch, being the picky eater I am, orange slices were my main source of food. Real oranges were okay, but cuties were my favorite. If you aren't familiar with cuties, they are the small oranges in the blue bags at the grocery stores. An entire bag of cuties could be consumed single-handedly by yours truly in just one day. When having a family movie night, I would repeatedly go back to the kitchen, picking up handfuls of mandarin oranges to bring back to the couch to devour. By the end of the movie, the number of oranges I could ingest would normally be around 10. This is a skill I still possess, in case anyone was wondering. Fast forward a few years to 9th grade, and my new favorite snack was a Pop-Tart, brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts in particular. During activities, like many, I would be starving and in need of a pick-me-up to get to lunch. The Pop-Tart was the most ideal snack, despite the loud wrapper that could be heard throughout the auditorium during a morning meeting or a senior speech. Once the clock hit 11 and we were out of class, freshman me would undoubtedly be found with a brown sugar Pop-Tart in hand and prepared to share it with absolutely no one. The snack had become a habit that went on for at least the entirety of the first semester. My next stage of obsessions was during quarantine, which became my normal breakfast, a piece of strawberry toast. This delicacy consists of a piece of white bread toasted to perfection, coated in butter, and topped with thinly sliced strawberries. Conveniently, this took a bit of time to put together, as I had quite a bit of time on my hands during the spring of 2020. This fixation of mine lasted for a really long time and carried me into my love of carbs. When it comes to bread and pasta, I'm one of their biggest fans. Another stage of mine that had started during quarantine was my bagel stage. Not just any bagel though. My Burger's bagel order was very distinct. A plain bagel, sliced and toasted, filled with plain cream cheese, and here's the kicker, with smoked salmon and lettuce. After any sleepover with friends, when seeking a breakfast location or a post-workout snack, my only suggestion would be Burger's Bagels. I can only convince my friends to support this need I had for a bagel. To this day, I still have a concerning passion for a casual Mexican restaurant chain. Most of the people I'm close with are familiar with my addiction to Chipotle. It has become quite the annoyance to my friends, as I think it's the best place to grab a bite to eat, no matter the time of day. I have so far reached 1,629 points on the Chipotle mobile app from earning rewards from being a frequent flyer. The burrito bowl filled with rice, chicken, queso, pico de gallo, and guacamole is what keeps me going every day. Inconveniently, all the Chipotle locations are at least 12 minutes away from where I reside, but I'm always happy to make the drive. To say I have a special place in my heart for the Chipotle burrito bowls is an understatement. The great foods on my list of obsessions are extensive, but those are just some of the recent favorites. Some honorable mentions are Fruit Loops, singular slices of American cheese, prosciutto, Pringles, and Reese's peanut butter cups. My fixations don't just stop at foods. Another one of my obsessions during freshman year was the word queen. Although it seems to describe someone of royalty, to me, this was a very versatile word that can use to be described almost anyone. Over time, I have modernized the word queen as it has now changed to shoddy. Like before, shoddy, I use this as a genderless pronoun that I can and will use to describe anyone I know. Another one of the words I can commonly be associated with would be evidently, which I stole from my mother. I also have people I fixate on as well. These relationships are the person I call the best friend at the moment of time, or maybe the silly boy I like, all typically surrounding a common interest. I've taken the idea of having many best friends throughout my life as a good thing. This has given me the chance to learn many life lessons from various people. If you knew me as a kid, chances are you knew the little redhead that was attached to me by my hip, Marley Diamond. I met Marley when she came to my school in the middle of the year, and we immediately became best friends. We both had quite the obsession for American Girl dolls. These dolls were more than just a toy. It was what really brought us together. We could be commonly found on her second-story loft as it became a bungee jump platform for our American Girl dolls. The dolls, only secured by duct tape and a dog leash, were sent into flight into the hallway below, and only on rare occasions, plummeting to the floor beneath. Eventually, we got older, and our favorite activities weren't surrounded by toys anymore, and we moved to different schools. We both began new stages of our life and drifted from each other, but not to worry, definitely still friends. Although we don't hang out as much as we used to, whenever I see Marley, I'm greeted with a bear hug filled with excitement. Another one of my obsessions at the time that you might be familiar with is running. The person who really got me into running is someone filled with joy and a legend to the distance team, Rhys. If you have the joy of knowing Rhys, you know a hardworking runner that brought laughter to every room he entered. Running with him was thrilling and fun until it wasn't. Since he always pushed everyone to do their best, that means it wasn't always easy. There have been multiple times where I've had what felt like a near-death experience due to the pain of running with him, or even cried. At the end of the run with Rhys, I knew I worked my hardest for sure. On weekends or weekdays when we didn't have practice, you could typically find me and Rhys running in Cherokee Park with a few other friends or getting a post-workout meal at Taco Luchador, something I still do to this day with friends. Running is something that has been a constant obsession of mine for years, and I have a feeling it'll stay that way for a while. Running itself has led me to meet some of my new closest friends and coaches and all those on my team. Each friendship has carried me in a different stage of my life through the many ups and downs. To anyone outside of this room or here right now that I've ever called my friend, thank you for all you have taught me. I've also learned that you may not be best friends with everyone forever. I may not see some of my friends all the time anymore, but I will always cherish the memories I made with them forever. I've learned that exploring is a good thing, and so is trying new things, meaning having Chipotle for every meal you can may not always be the best way to branch out. You never know what your next obsession might be. Thank you.
Our third speaker today is Ben Robelo. Ben will be introduced by Ms. Reynolds.
Many of you may not know that Ben is an accomplished photographer, but what you likely know is that he is an excellent conversationalist. I believe his achievements in art and his communication skills are intrinsically linked. Ben makes everyone feel at ease in his presence, which allows him to capture naturally vibrant photographs of his subjects and collect compelling stories from anyone who sits down with him. He is drawn to the drama of a moment. He knows what will seize and hold his audience's attention through any storytelling medium. For these reasons, I have no doubt he will continue to create incredible artistic works as he pursues film and television production post-graduation. But more importantly, I am sure he will be successful in the industry because he is one of the most resilient, independent, and brave people that I know. I am honored to have been his advisor last year and to introduce him here today. Without further ado, Ben Revello.
Dear Abby was first published in the San Francisco Chronicle on January 9th, 1956 as an advice column, and within weeks, it was being read by 95 million people a day. Now, you might be asking yourself what an advice column is, and not to be confused with a gossip column, it was a public forum published in newspapers with people writing in anonymously to seek advice from Abby. These days, we have therapy, and so most people do not have to get their life advice from a newspaper columnist, but I decided to step into Abby's shoes and see if any of my friends needed advice. Now, I know what you're thinking, that I might not be the most qualified person to be telling people how to live their lives, but I just couldn't stop thinking about what an amazing world it would be if everyone took my advice. If Ben Robelo had an advice column, not to be confused with a gossip column, it might go something like this. Dear Ben, I fear that I am boring. What should I do? Signed, a boring boy from the Highlands. Dear Boring, being boring is my worst fear and it should be yours too. Boring is subjective, so you need to check yourself. Like if you say something and you don't immediately get hot flashes after, you probably said something boring. If you really want to stop being boring, you need to stop living a calculated life. Talking to strangers and doing things without second thought should become your new normal. If Emma and I had decided to be boring and not stop to explore an abandoned farmhouse, we would not have gotten so many amazing pictures. Even though we had to step over a few dead rats on the way in the farmhouse, if we hadn't stopped, we would have been at the park trying to find at least something interesting to take photos of. Don't put a whole lot of thought into it, or that will probably make it boring. Dear Ben, I want to buy a trendy inflatable kayak for $60 off of Amazon. Would that be fun? Signed, Fiending for Fun. Dear Fun. Ah, yes, we've all been there. My dear friends Maddie, Brianna, Alice, and I went kayaking on a hot summer day in these trendy things. After 20 minutes of blowing up the kayaks, fighting, and taking breaks to pee in the bushes, we ventured off into Harrods Creek. We were originally supposed to go left out of the dock to the waterfalls, but the current wouldn't let us, and by the time we realized, we were being whisked away downstream towards the Ohio River. At first, we were enjoying our lazy river ride. It was kind of like Great Wolf Lodge, but without the bed bugs. The storm clouds started to roll in. The storm clouds started to roll in after a while, and we pulled off to a steep, muddy edge of some grassy land, and Brianna tried to get out only to fall into the muddy water. And we realized we would have to get out at a different spot. At this point, it starts a thunderstorm, and the current was picking up. With the inflatable kayaks quickly filling up with water, we had to take a water dump break at someone random's dock. We ended up floating the rest of the way downstream pretty quickly and in the rain. We were picked up at a boat landing dock, and we got the inside of the car soaking wet. So yes, I would recommend getting them, but just check the weather beforehand. Dear Ben, I'm having trouble standing up for myself. What should I do? Signed, Feeling Like a Pushover. Dear Pushover, I can say that standing up for yourself is key, and it's all about your mindset. You have to realize that you owe it to yourself to not get walked all over by someone you can outsmart with just a couple of mind tricks or resistance. It's important to realize that there is nothing wrong with advocating yourself, not arguing, and there is no need to be scared. But I've realized that this is something that I had to learn over time, or well, now that I think about it, maybe it was all those years in Catholic school. And when you're fighting for something you want, just remember that the worst thing anyone can say to you is no. Dear Ben, why do sophomores have a tendency to be lost? Signed, Bad Grades and Long Days. Dear Bad Grades, the word sophomore comes from the Greek word sophos, which means a wise fool. It makes sense because they have 1 year under their belt, but they are not even close to being finished with their high school careers. When I was a sophomore and it was my first year at collegiate, our class was being fearlessly led by Miss Bowles. And it was an awkward time for sure. What helped me most was building relationships with my teachers and not being afraid to have conversations with them. My teachers at collegiate have been great mentors to me, and being open and honest with them is important for receiving help and having success. And try to build good studying and time management habits because it only gets worse from there. Now, I know that this advice column was unfortunately not heard by 95 million people, but I hope my peers at collegiate took something away from this, or even just got to know me a little bit better. I want to thank the teachers at collegiate that have gone above and beyond to support me as a learner and a person, and I want to thank my great friends at collegiate for always sticking by my side and teaching me something new every day. And big thanks to Ms. Shoemaker, who sparked my interest in photography and has taken so much time to support and teach me while wanting to grow my skills. Ms. Shoemaker has gone above and beyond to help me prepare for college and grow as an artist, and I'm very grateful for the help that she has given me. If you're still awake and you liked my speech, you can give me some big claps, and if you didn't, well, my name is Andrew. Thank you.
Well done. Out of respect, let's give him another round of applause. Okay, beautiful people. I hope that you will take this week to meet with your teachers, study hard for exams. Have a great day.